Okay, so you're thinking about getting into real estate. That is a common thing that I hear, but how do you go about doing it? I'm Ellen Mitchell, your heels on the ground in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area. And on this channel, we talk about probate, guardianship, senior relocation, and everything real estate. Today, we're going to talk about getting into the real estate market. And I'm here with my son, second generation realtor, Kevin Bethel. Say hello.
Hello.
So it's funny because I remember your sister, his older sister, Heather, worked for me one summer and absolutely hated it. In fact, she was complaining and fetching and everything. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And I said, Heather, you're not doing me a favor. Go get a job at McDonald's or something. I'm doing you a favor by employing you. And she absolutely hated it. And Kevin, I got my real estate license. Kevin was born in 1997 and I got my real estate license in 1998. So he's grown up in the business. And how was that for you, seeing it grow up? And then, if you could talk about the transition that you went through from logistics into real estate.
Well, it was always something that I wanted to do, seeing you do it and growing up kind of in the real estate sphere. And when I was a teenager, I worked under your team as an assistant. So I got to see kind of the day-to-day operations, but I was too young to be licensed. And then once I turned 18, I kind of went my own way, worked in GNC, and then I ended up working in logistics, which similarly to real estate is all commission-based. And I feel like after working, a few years in that and then only working on commission and, if you don't put in the work, you don't get paid. Moving over to real estate, it seemed very realistic and, it's very rewarding because in real estate, you're helping families, and especially with what we do with probate and senior relocation, you get to see the work that you put in, moving forward and helping families get from point A to point B, and, just going from seeing it in the background to becoming a part of it has become a very interesting shift.
Well, I remember when you were getting your license and I had actually encouraged you to go work for somebody else, thinking that it would be better for you to get a year or two under your belt, work for somebody else, and then perhaps if you still wanted to come to work for me. So can you just talk about, I know you had talked with other people, but you really lobbied, including my coach, to come to work for me.
As soon as I got my real estate license, as soon as I passed the class and then the state exam, I started interviewing right away. I interviewed with Kai's and with Keller Williams and with a bunch of brokerages, and they all had very interesting things. Obviously, every brokerage has their own things that they offer. Keller Williams with their education, and in your mind, you didn't think that I would be able to work with you at the time because you wanted me to get experience and for me to, get used to the industry before I worked with you. And I believe it was your coach, it was Bubba, right? Who recommended that, you did have enough work and that I should come work with you. So right before I signed a contract with another brokerage, you came in and were like, all right, you're working with me. I was like, okay, when do I start?
Yeah, that was probably my biggest concern. And I called my real estate coach at the time, Bubba Mills, who's wonderful. And I said, do I have enough work for him? Can I keep him busy? Because you don't want someone to come and work with you and then you're not able to give them enough business to survive. And he had Kevin do a personality, the DISC, D-I-S-C, personality assessment, and interviewed Kevin and said, Ellen, he's a born salesman. You definitely have enough work for him, because I was referring out most of my buyers at that time, and joined me at the time, and we've been working together. February was a year. Mm-hmm. So if someone was looking to get into real estate, what are the things that you think would you recommend as a millennial? working solo, working on a team? Like how do you think someone should get started?
It's definitely something that no matter what you do, team, solo, commercial, residential, you need to be personally driven. It's something that you can, no matter who you're working with, if you wake up and do nothing all day, you make a couple calls and go to the office and get nothing done, you're not going to make sales, you're not going to get the buyers and get the listings, and you're not going to make money. So I feel like no matter who you are, getting into this industry, you have to be ready to put in the work and, get a good mentor like I have you. Without a good mentor, it's very tough because as an inexperienced and young agent, people don't want to necessarily give you their business. Maybe you can work with a family member or a friend, but you only have so many of those that will want to buy or sell a house, and maybe they won't even want to go with you because, no offense, but if you're 22 years old and you're just starting, people aren't going to want to put all their trust into you. So I'd say, being personally driven and working hard and really finding out what you want to do in this industry. And, they say the riches are in the niches. And I think, working in probate and guardianship, it definitely has proven that, because being a general agent, there's so many, everybody's an agent. In South Florida, everybody's a DJ and everybody's a realtor. I'm both.
You're both.
I'm both. But without niching into something specific like senior relocation or first-time home buyers or probate, you're just like everybody else. And when there's 10,000 people to choose from, you have a 1 in 10,000 chance. But if you're one of the 50 agents who works with first-time home buyers in Hollywood or Fort Lauderdale, you have a much higher pool of people to work with, and I think a higher chance of succeeding.
Those are really good points. I think the choosing a niche, whether it's oceanfront condos, golf course communities, retirement communities. I have a friend who's an equestrian. She works in equestrian communities. So I think that's really good. And you mentioned a mentor. And I think that's so important, to get your real estate license and just go it on your own. It's very difficult, even when you're personally motivated, because who's going to teach you what to do and where is your business going to come from? I was very fortunate that I started in an unlicensed capacity in real estate and then got my real estate license and had a wonderful mentor, Gary Smith, shout out to Gary, for many, many years. And that's how I learned, because the number of sales that you've been involved in, we've closed over 10 million so far this year. And most people don't close that in their first several years.
Right.
So the number of transactions that you've been involved with and the working with people. Also, I think the training, that was probably the first 3 months that you came to work with me, that you were just taking classes.
Yeah, I took the contracts as is FAR class. I took the scripts and dialogues class with Bubba, with his coaching. And then I think another thing is, really find a brokerage that will work with you. You have so many brokerages that maybe they offer 90%, which is awesome. You're getting, 90 out of every $100. But if you're making zero, 90% of zero is nothing. So I think, really, in some of them, they'll pull you in very quickly, but then they'll just leave you with nothing and expect you to bring leads. So I think, finding a brokerage that not only needs agents, but has things to offer, or has a team that is proactive and helpful is good, because, when everybody's an agent, you have to find somewhere that you can be special, and something that you can be special in.
So I know we work on everything together, but you've seen so many ups and downs and successes. And I think the story that I would love for you to tell is the probate property that was referred to us by an attorney, and when you went there with the locksmith and you had quite a surprise. Do you know which one I'm talking about? Yeah.
So we got a referral from a probate attorney about a property. The owner had passed away. It had been maybe 3 years. It had been a while. So the unit had been vacant. The family didn't even know that the unit existed. And the probate attorney reached out to us. It needed to be rekeyed. It needed to be, cleaned and pictures taken and listed.
And emptied.
So we went to the property with a locksmith, And we get to the door. We didn't knock on the door because we didn't think we would need to. It's supposed to be vacant. And we're breaking the door down. The guy is hammering the door handle. And then we hear someone on the other side like, hello, hello. We're like, oh my God. So somebody opens the door, and it turns out that the association had been renting out the unit way under market price and not paying the association dues. So the association was renting the unit out and keeping the money, while at the same time racking up a credit on the owner saying, you haven't been paying the dues, we're going to foreclose. So they were kind of like double-siding it. And that was bizarre because, I mean, I know Miami is big in fraud, but that was, a crazy experience.
And I remember you looking at me and saying, are you sure this is the right apartment?
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh my gosh, this was supposed to be vacant. And thankfully, I hearken back to the days that I worked in foreclosures and short sales, where it was like the wild, wild west. And I saw a lot of things like that. But that was crazy. Like, what was your favorite client story, success story?
Well, I could say my first deal that I got on my own, my first lead and my first, solo transaction was I have a friend who I grew up, going out partying with and hanging out with after I met him after I was 18, and he had a friend in New Jersey who wanted to buy an investment property down here. So he said, hey, I have a friend, Kevin, he's a realtor, and he referred me the business, and I ended up finding he wanted like a 1-bedroom condo to, rent out as an investment property. And I found him a property and we bought it, and I ended up getting him a tenant. And, that was the first time that I had like my own lead from my own sphere of influence. So that felt really good because it was, not something that was given to me, but something that was, kind of referred and recommended because I was putting myself out there as a realtor so that people could know. The whole thing is you want, when someone goes, when they hear a friend say, oh, I want to buy a house in South Florida, you want to be the top of mind. So being that person felt really good.
That did feel good. That was really nice. And it's like we used to say, don't be a secret agent. So it's
right.
Like you want to make sure that people know that you're a realtor. You can wear a shirt with I've been with Remax since 2000, but just to be out there and let people know what it is and what service and value that you can bring to them. That was really exciting. And I remember, I think that I did a video on this previously, but it was really you that had the experience. I'm talking about
the dog.
Oh yeah. The dog. If you could tell that story.
Yeah. Let's start with relationships.
Okay.
In real estate, you have to build relationships, and one thing that's very important that we do is we build relationships directly with estate planning attorneys, probate attorneys, and guardianship attorneys, because people who work with attorneys, they listen to their attorneys. Usually, it's you hire an attorney to listen to what they say. So we try to create relationships directly with them so that when the family needs the services of a realtor, we're the ones who become referred. So we had a case where this wasn't probate, this was estate planning. A woman had her will and estate planning done with Samantha Fitzgerald, who's an amazing estate planning and probate attorney. And the woman passed away, and before she passed away, she went to her neighbor's house and brought her dog to the neighbor and said, I'm not feeling well, here's my dog, I'm gonna go to the hospital, I'll be back. When I come back, I'll get my dog back. And sadly, she never made it back. She passed away at the hospital. And the family got a hold of the neighbor and they said, can we get our dog back? And the neighbor said no. He said, the dog is mine now. Like, you're not getting the dog back. End of story. So it was a big issue. So we got the listing to sell the house, to sell the condo. This is all within a week, within the week that she passed away. And we had to go to the condo. The neighbor had a key to the condo. So we were supposed to go in, rekey, and, start the whole process. We thought that the dog would be with the neighbor because he, said he wouldn't give it back. But what the neighbor was doing was during the day when he was at work, he would bring the dog into her unit and keep it there. And then when he got back, he would take the dog into his own house. But when we got there to rekey it, the dog was there. So we break into the apartment, with the family's permission.
And a locksmith.
Yeah, and
We're not
locksmith.
like,
And lo and behold, the dog is sitting right there. So we were able to, rescue the dog, and we ended up, the family didn't want to keep the dog because they lived out of state. But we did find a good home with someone that we knew that would adopt the dog. And
she had actually willed the dog to another neighbor.
Yeah, she had willed the dog to a neighbor, not the one who had it. And we went to him first and said, would you be willing to take this dog? And he was very old, and he said that he just, at the time, he promised her he could. He was in better health, but that now it just wouldn't work. So it's just one of those stories. It's just, you'll never forget.
It did have a really happy ending, though, because it was the person that adopted the dog was a friend of mine's father. And they had been looking for a dog for him for a long time, and he was an older gentleman, and it was an older woman who had the dog. So it wound up being a perfect companion. But that was a really crazy situation. So I like everything that you said. Relationships, niches, having a mentor, someone to guide you, and it takes time.
It takes time. Every deal takes time. In this industry, it can be, the quickest deal could be 15 days, and the longest deal could be, 6 months or longer. You just never know, especially with probate.
Well, and I think your first year, the income that you received wasn't awesome. It was more about learning
right.
The first year. So if someone's getting into real estate, it's not like you see on Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It's not like you get rich quick and you get your real estate license and start showing multi-million-dollar properties.
Yeah, a lot of people don't close a deal in their first year or first 16 months. And, if you want to become a realtor, you need to be sure that you can take care of yourself. If you're needing a paycheck, if it's January and you need a paycheck by February, maybe it's not a good idea to you jump into real estate yet. You want to have a backup. And another thing that a lot of people do is they'll do real estate on the side, and they'll work maybe a full-time job or a part-time job and be a realtor. And that can work for some people, but there's a lot of clients who, let's say they call you at 2 p.m. and you're at your part-time job, you can't speak to them until 5. That's very unattractive to them. Maybe you don't tell them, but they know that you're not always available. So having a full-time, responsive agent, that makes a big difference, because so many realtors that we work with, they don't even answer their phone. So just being the realtor that picks up the phone, goes above and beyond for their client, that's huge, especially when half of our clients live out of state. So picking
probably more.
So picking up the phone is 90% of our business,
And my logo is your heels on the ground, and we've been talking about marketing and so if you are new, you may want to get a slogan, and my slogan is your heels on the ground. But now I have Kevin, and Kevin doesn't wear heels. And so we've been talking about that. What do we do with that? Do we keep it heels on the ground? Do we do me heels on the ground, him boots on the ground? We're not sure, but just something to play around with. And if you have any suggestions, let us know in the comments below. This has been a really fun. Thank you so much, Kevin, and we'll have to do an update to this. I know
absolutely
Kevin was a little bit hesitant to do this, but you're a natural second-generation realtor doing a great job. I'm very proud of you.
We got our realtor dogs here.
We got our realtor dogs here, and for those of you that don't know, Kevin was recently married, so that's very exciting as well to have a new daughter-in-law. Yes, any comments, questions, suggestions, please put them in the chat, and please like and subscribe. It really helps our channel.
Like, comment, and subscribe.